Chapter 176. Scheme. I won't marry Tian Jiawang no matter what. You can marry him if you dare agree on my behalf, as I don't want to be poor for the rest of my life. Chun Hong straightened her neck and replied. When she was working in the manor, she saw what the most important thing in village life was. It was land, which was the foundation of not having to worry about food and drink. Therefore, Jiyu Chengji, who was talented, good-looking, and had a lot of lands, fit her requirements the best. As for Tian Jiawang, although he had a job and no parents or children, he looked like a bear. He still had 3 worthless family members to raise. At most, she wouldn't have to worry about food and drink. She would probably have to save up for a long time if she wanted to buy a decent piece of clothing, which was why she didn't want to marry him. In her days, she did not notice Widow Hua's face darkening, and her eyes were disappointed. Then, she slapped her daughter's face. It seems like I've spoiled you too much. You. Chun Hong covered her face, burning from the slap, and looked at Widow Hua in disbelief. She roared aggrievedly, You're simply being unreasonable. After that, she turned around and ran out. Come back here. Widow Hua quickly chased after her. Not only did Chun Hong not return, but she ran faster and faster. Finally, she rushed into the Tian family's house and roared at Sister Tian, who was in a daze. You should give up. I will never marry into your family, even if I die. After that, she turned around and ran up the mountain. Sister Tian was stunned and confused. What was she talking about? However, she soon remembered that her best friend, Widow Hua, had asked her what she thought of Chun Hong. To be honest, she didn't like Chun Hong's arrogant personality, but for her friend's sake, she only nodded and praised her daughter. She hadn't expected. She ran after her immediately, but her heart skipped a beat when she saw her running up the mountain. She was afraid that something would happen to Chun Hong, and she couldn't explain it to her friend. Thus, she had no choice but to turn and run to Widow Hua's house. She had no idea she'd run into Widow Hua when she turned into an alley she had to pass through. She quickly pulled onto her and urged. Chun Hong ran up the mountain. What? That wretched girl is getting more and more disobedient. At this point, Widow Hua wanted to ask Sister Tian to help chase after her daughter. However, when she thought about how Chun Hong rejected her, she immediately swallowed the words on the tip of her tongue. She just thanked Sister Tian and ran up the mountain. Sister Tian shook her head when she saw this. At the same time, she was glad that Chun Hong did not agree to the marriage, or she might have harmed her brother. Chun Hong's rebellious situation also reminded her that she shouldn't spoil her daughter too much, or it would be troublesome in the future. After Chun Hong ran into the mountains, she didn't walk far before she met Jiyu Chengji and Jiyu Chengye. When she saw the 2 brothers checking out the mountain, her eyes flashed, and she had an idea. She quietly walked over and stopped about 100 feet away from them. She deliberately twisted her foot and shouted, "Oh, help!" She shouted a few more times just in case they couldn't hear her. The Jiyu brothers, busy digging through the soil, paused when they heard the shouts. They looked at each other and ran up the mountain, where they saw Chun Hong struggling to get up. The 2 brothers looked at each other, but neither stepped forward. This was because they had seen too many conspiracies and schemes for marriage in the capital. Chun Hong had been trying to get close to Jiyu Chengye all this time, but the Jiyu family didn't want her. So, both brothers felt this was probably another trick of hers, trying to take advantage of an opportunity to cling to Jiyu Chengye. Chapter 177. Exposing her. Chun Hong wanted to cry at that moment. She tried to fake a twisted ankle, so she gently tilted her foot. She didn't expect that she would twist it too much, and her entire ankle swelled up in an instant. She was in such pain that she didn't care about her schemes anymore. She yelled for help and cried for real at the same time. This seems to be real, Jiyu Chengye said as he listened to her anguished cries. Then go find her mother or a strong woman to assist her. Jiyu Chengji decided. That's true. Be careful, big brother, and don't fall into her trap. Jiyu Chengye ran into the village after that. Jiyu Chengji, on the other hand, walked toward Chun Hong. At this time, Chun Hong also noticed Jiyu Chengji. Seeing that it wasn't the person she had been thinking about, she cried as she demanded, "Why is it you? Why? Are you here waiting for someone?" Jiyu Chengji asked with a faint smile. How could that be? I just didn't expect it to be Brother Jiyu. Chunhong replied with an awkward smile. That's good. I was afraid that I would ruin your plans. After Jiyu Chengji finished speaking, he sat 3 meters away from her. At the same time, he was certain she was here to set up a trap for Jiyu Chengye. What a pity, her acting skills were wasted because she ran her mouth. However, he soon realized that he was wrong. Seeing her grimace as she moved, he knew she had twisted her ankle for real and that she was a ruthless person willing to do anything for her goal. Chunhong tried getting up a few times but only ended up in more pain. She could only ask for help. Brother Jiyu, I beg you to help me up. Let's just wait. Chengye has returned to the village to call for help. Besides, even if you stand up, you need someone to support you. I'm not suited to do that. But don't worry, I'll stay here and help you drive away any wild animals that might come. Jiyu Chengji assured her while shaking his head. You. When Chunhong saw how he avoided her like the devil, she was so furious that her leg hurt even more. She stayed silent after that. She was also afraid of being seen by others if he helped her. She didn't want to be Jiyu Chengji's concubine. On the other end, Jiyu Chengye hadn't run far when he bumped into Widow Hua, who immediately came forward. Auntie, you've come at the right time. Chunhong sprained her ankle on the mountain. Come with me. She sprained her ankle? Is it serious? I'm not sure. We didn't want to cause a misunderstanding, so we didn't go up to take a look. You guys, yes, my big brother is nearby. I ran down to look for someone to help her. Widow Hua was upset when she heard that. It was one thing for her to disagree with her daughter's marriage to Jiyu Chengye, but she didn't want her daughter to be avoided like the plague. It seemed that this marriage was impossible. She would take advantage of the fact that she couldn't walk with her sprained ankle to persuade her to give up. When the two arrived, they saw Jiyu Chengji standing on a stone and looking into the distance. As for Chunhong, she was sitting on the hard ground and still struggling. She had to move as she was lying on the cold ground and was afraid she would freeze to death. Widow Hua's heart ached when she saw this. She quickly ran down and asked, "How's your injury? Is it serious?" "Mother, I'm in pain." When Chunhong saw her, she immediately threw herself into her arms and wailed pitifully. When Widow Hua heard this, she immediately rolled up her daughter's trousers a little to take a look. Her nose twitched, and tears streamed down her face when she saw her ankle swollen like a steamed bun. However, she couldn't let the two Jiyu brothers laugh at her now. She helped her daughter up quickly and said, "Let's go. Mother will help you quickly find a doctor." Ouch, lighter, lighter. It hurts so much. Chunhong cried out in pain while standing up, and the pain was so intense that she couldn't help but shed tears. Chapter 178 Experiment. Because Chunhong couldn't move her legs, Widow Hua had no choice but to bend over and carry her daughter. Fortunately, walking from her to the foot of the mountain wasn't too difficult, and the two women quickly went down the mountain. However, Chunhong still cried out in pain the entire way. As they left, the two brothers hiding behind a large rock emerged. Jiyu Chengji heard Chunhong's cries, gradually getting further away. He turned his head and teased, "The girl deliberately suffered such a heavy injury in order to get close to you. Isn't her love beautiful? Why? Your heart aches." Jiyu Chengye glared at him and retorted, "What does it have to do with me? She's here for you," Jiyu Chengji said as they went down the mountain. After Widow Hua went down the mountain, she carried Chunhong to Jiyu Chengru's house and knocked on it. However, even after knocking for a long time, she only heard a dog barking, and no one opened the door. At that moment, Sister Tian walked out and saw the mother and daughter's sorry state. She paused momentarily before quickly going forward to support Chunhong. "Sister Hua, what's wrong with Chunhong?" She twisted her leg. "Is there no one in Dr. Gus' house?" Widow Hua inquired, panting heavily. "Dr. Jiyu shouldn't be at home. I saw him rushing out while drying the cabbage in the courtyard. As for Ju Ying, I'm not sure. By the way, do you guys want to wait for Dr. Jiyu at my home?" asked Sister Tian. Without waiting for Widow Hua to speak, Chunhong pushed Sister Tian away. "No. Mother, Let's use the ice at home to reduce the swelling and wait for Dr. Jiyu to come back. Alright, let's go home. Widow Hua could only reply with a dry laugh. Sister Tian looked at Chunhong's attitude and remembered her previous outbursts, so she didn't insist on their stay. After they left, she shook her head in pity. It seemed that Sister Hua's life wouldn't be easy in the future. Ju Ying looked at the sky after she finished her work and exited her interspace. Noticing that the sky had turned dark, she went to the kitchen to cook dinner. After she was done, she left a portion for Jiyu Chungrui and kept it warm in a pot. She went back to her room to sleep after that. She thought Jiyu Chungrui wouldn't be coming back tonight, so she was surprised when he rushed back in the middle of the night. Ju Ying looked at him in surprise and asked, Rui, didn't you say that you wouldn't come back if it were too late? I'm in a hurry to do an experiment. Send me into your interspace after I finish eating dinner. Go back to your room, and I'll go to the kitchen to get you your food. After Ju Ying finished speaking, she took a small flashlight and went to the kitchen. Seeing this, Jiyu Chungrui took her offer and went into their house to wash his face with cold water, refreshing himself. After that, she brought the food to him, and the two entered her interspace. Jiyu Chungrui carried the food and sat at the dining table. Babe, help yourself. I'll be busy here today, so you don't have to wait for me. That's fine, but you must take care of your health. Her poison isn't lethal, so there's no need to rush. Jiyu Chungrui nodded, then lowered his head to eat. Ju Ying was no longer sleepy after getting this, so she simply collected some wild duck eggs and bird nests. After she was done, she washed the duck eggs and mixed lime into them to make century eggs. When she was done, Jiyu Chungrui still didn't come down. She had no choice but to leave her interspace and was surprised to find the sun high in the sky. She tidied up the house and unlocked the door. Not long after, Sister Tian walked over. Sister, you're up. Is Dr. Jiyu back? Sister Hua's daughter, Chun Hong, twisted her ankle yesterday and has been waiting for Dr. Jiyu. She's been here several times throughout the night. Is it serious? He came back late last night and hasn't woken up yet. Quite. I saw her ankle was bruised and swollen to the size of a steamed bun. Chapter 179 Antidote. Alright, I'll ask him to come over after we're done with breakfast. Ju Ying said. Okay, I'll leave you to your stuff. After Sister Tian finished speaking, she turned around and went home. Ju Ying turned around and went to the kitchen. She first entered the interspace and saw Jiyu Chungrui still busy in the laboratory, so she didn't interrupt him and went cooking. When she returned from her cooking, Jiyu Chungrui was already sitting at the side with his eyes closed and resting. She said, let's eat, and we'll talk after we finish the rest. Alright, let's have our meal first. Jiyu Chungrui agreed and left the interspace with her. After they had their fill, Ju Ying told him about Chunhong's sprain. Do you want to go and take a look? Yeah, I'll go out and get a breeze of fresh air. I feel like I've walked into a dead end. Go ahead, and you'd better have a good sleep when you come back before continuing. Ju Ying reminded him as she began to clean up the dishes. Jiyu Chungrui went to Widow Hua's place and went to sleep in the interspace after he returned. Ju Ying was afraid that more people would come, so she locked her door and went into the mountains with Zhuang. When they were deep in the mountains, she brought Zhuang into her interspace and let him go around to play. Meanwhile, she took out some soybeans and green beans and went to the workshop to make some yuba and vermicelli using her machines. After all, with the progress of the Manners workshop, even the slightest delay would result in a shortage of goods. After she was done, she made a pot of beef bone, tendon, and meat soup. She planned to turn this into a pot of sour beef soup when she returned home. After she was done, she called Zhuang back, and the two left the space. She just happened to encounter a wild rooster and 3 hens looking for food in the grass. Thus, she immediately took out an air gun and shot the rooster's head. At the same time, Zhuang pounced on the fattest hen and bit its neck, scaring the other 2 hens away. When Ju Ying saw this, she went forward and picked up the 2 chickens. Let's go, Zhuang. I'll make you some chicken stew tonight. After that, she and her dog walked down the mountain. By the time they reached the foot of the mountain, the sun had already set. From afar, she saw Mrs. Wang wandering around at the entrance, and she paused for a moment before quickening her pace. "Auntie, do come in and sit," Ju Ying offered as she took out a key and opened her door. Mrs. Wang shook her head. "It's fine. I'm just here to ask how Chengru's progress is going, as my daughter has to return tomorrow morning." "Well, he went to the clinic today to try making an antidote, but I don't know the specific situation. I'll have him look for you when he returns. Can he come over regardless of whether the antidote can be made? If there isn't an antidote, giving her a prescription to recuperate her body first is fine too." "All right, I'll remember that," Ju Ying affirmed, and she handed the hen to her. "I got this from the mountain just now. Take it back and make a bowl of chicken soup for her." "No need. Just take it. We can't finish 2 chickens," Ju Ying insisted as she handed the hen to her. Mrs. Wang thought of her daughter's weak state and took it in the end. After thanking Ju Ying, Mrs. Wang returned home. In the evening, Ju Ying made 4 dishes, a sour beef soup, a chicken mushroom stew, stir-fried celery, and a plate of mixed radish salad. Of course, Wang was rewarded with beef soup with some bones, meat, and 2 steamed buns. When she entered the interspace, she saw Jiyu Chungrue sitting on the sofa on the first floor, leisurely drinking some tea and snacking on some beef jerky. "Look at you, you've made the antidote?" she asked with a smile. Chapter 180 Living Up to Expectations. Jiyu Chungrue nodded and smiled. "That's right. I just got it done less than 20 minutes ago. Let's go out and celebrate then," Ju Ying exclaimed as she pulled him out of her interspace. Jiyu Chungrue saw the dishes on the table and said happily, "I guess we are really celebrating. You've made some chicken stew for me." "Of course. Let's hurry up and eat, and we'll head to your eldest uncle's house. His daughter is leaving tomorrow, so we have to go there by today. Shouldn't we prepare some gifts?" "Yeah, we do. There's some ginseng slice in the interspace someone collected before. Let's bring them a small jar of ginseng slices, some blood-replenishing medicine you made, and 2 bottles of skin cream. That should be enough, right?" "Of course. She's the wife of a mayor and wouldn't lack anything else." Jiyu Chungrue nodded his head in agreement. He passed her a drumstick, and the couple started eating. After the meal, the 2 took the antidote and the gifts they had prepared, locked up, and rushed to the patriarch's house. When she arrived, the family had just finished dinner and was idly chatting. In Mrs. Wang's arms was an unfamiliar little girl of about 7 years old. If Ju Ying wasn't mistaken, she was Jiyu Zi's eldest daughter. A young woman was also at the side, holding a little boy in her arms. It was Jiyu Chenggen's wife and son, Mrs. Fang and Barney. When the patriarch saw them, he stood up and greeted them warmly. "Oh, you guys are here. Have you 2 eaten?" "We have. We came over after having dinner." Jiyu Chungrue spoke as he set the items in his hands on the table. "Let's sit down and talk." The patriarch invited them to sit. "Chungrue, have you made the antidote?" Mrs. Wang looked at Jiyu Chungrue. "Mother, there's no rush. Don't keep urging Chungrue." Jiyu Zi spoke quickly. To be honest, she didn't have high hopes. After all, even the imperial physicians wouldn't be able to find a cure for a poison of unknown origins. "Well, what did you know? I did it, and am here to give you the antidote. However, this antidote cannot be taken all at once. It has to be taken separately over 3 days, 3 times a day, and 2 pills each time," Jiyu Chungrue instructed as he personally handed the antidote to Jiyu Zi. "Thank you, Chungrue. Can this really wholly remove the poison?" Jiyu Zi clutched the medicine bottle tightly as she choked with emotion. "Yes, but since your body has already been damaged, you need some time to recuperate. Could you also give me a prescription for that? I don't trust anyone else." "You're being a little paranoid. To be honest, if you want to take care of your body, you first have to be good at distinguishing between friends and enemies. Otherwise, you'll be tricked again," Jiyu Chungrue advised her. The patriarch sighed heavily after hearing this. The others also fell silent. Jiyu Chungrue saw that everyone had stopped talking and didn't ask any more questions. He stood up and said, "It's getting late, and we wish you a safe journey tomorrow." "Uncle, we'll be going back now," he said to the patriarch. The clan leader thought of the troubles in Guz's family and had no intention of holding the couple back. He nodded and thanked them, saying, "In the future, come over, and I will thank you again. Chen Zhen, send them off, will you?" "All right." Chen Zhen responded and then stood up to send them out. He asked, "Chungrui, you know how to play chess, right? We're free during the new year, so why don't you come for a bout of chess together when you're free?" "All right, sure. We'll be heading back now." Chungrui said his farewells as he walked back with Ju Ying. The couple was busy in the interspace for the next few days or out for visits, and their everyday lives were quite relaxed. Of course, Chungrui would occasionally receive patients who sought his consultations. Chapter 181 Fireworks 1. In the blink of an eye, it was the 6th day of the new year, and they opened for business. However, business was slow in the new year, and the idle and relaxed days ended on the 15th. Because of the fireworks show, the town was bustling with people. Ju Ying and Chungrui went to their respective shops early in the morning to get busy. Ju Ying and Chun Niang rolled out a lot of sweet dumplings, planning to fry them at night to join in the festival. All kinds of stalls were set up from the afternoon until the evening. The street, which was already narrow, was completely congested. They set up a small stall to sell the sweet dumplings. Ju Ying also requested that lanterns be specially made with the big words "fried sweet dumplings" on them to be eye-catching on the night street. Candied gourd, sweet and sour candied gourd. 3 coppers for 1, 5 coppers for 2. When Ju Ying heard this, she and Sun Hongliang went out to buy a bunch for everyone. Just as she was about to turn around, she felt that someone was touching her money pouch. She immediately grabbed the hand and looked down. It was a skinny 7 or 8-year-old child wearing beggar's clothes, looking at her with a face of panic. "Let's go. We'll talk about why you're stealing," Ju Ying said as she grabbed the candied gourd in one hand and dragged him to her store with the other. When the child saw this, he immediately frowned and cried out, "Help! There are human traffickers. Please save me. It seems like you're familiar with the business. Someone must have taught you before." Ju Ying's grip tightened. Sun Hongliang looked at the child and said, "Kid, you've mistakenly targeted the wrong person. No one in this area doesn't know Manager Ju, so no one will care even if you scream your lungs out." The child, shouting at the top of his lungs, was stunned for a moment and glanced around. Sure enough, no one was coming to help him. Thinking of that, he raised his hand and tried to bite Ju Ying's hand. Ju Ying had to retract her hand, and the child immediately took the opportunity to disappear into the crowd. Seeing this, Ju Ying had no choice but to return to the store empty-handed. She asked Sun Hongliang to put away the candied gourd in oil paper before asking, "Didn't we take care of all the little beggars in the town? Why is there more?" During the new year, a small group of refugees came to town. Could he be one of them? Another possibility is that someone previously hiding somewhere took advantage to steal today. Sun Hongliang spoke with uncertainty. Ju Ying looked at the busy street and said, "There are crooks mixed in with the honest folks tonight, and it's easy for something to happen. We must be careful." "Understood, boss. I'll get the band of children to come over. They're smarter than adults." Sun Hongliang assured her as he called for a child beggar guarding the ventilation fan, giving him a task. The child beggar immediately took off his vest and hat and ran out. Seeing this, Ju Ying went to the back and reminded everyone to be more vigilant tonight. At night, business was booming, especially at their store that sold fried sweet dumplings. 888 dumplings were sold out in less than an hour. After dinner, most of everyone went to the dock to watch the fireworks, and the street was much quieter. When everyone had finished, Ju Ying handed out the candied gourds, each with a stick. After they finished, Ji Wen smiled and asked, "Mistress, we're almost done here. Can we go to the river to watch the fireworks? I heard there are also activities such as praying to the gods, lion dancing, and so on. At midnight, there will also be all kinds of fireworks, and it will be a beautiful night." Chapter 182 Fireworks 2. Fireworks Is it the kind of colorful fireworks? Ju Ying asked curiously. No, it's just the kind made of gunpowder and will be shot in different shapes. There's a grape shape, cranes, rats, and many other things. I even heard that the cranes will be in a flying form. Ji Wen said so excitedly. Really? Ju Ying's interest was also piqued when she heard this, as expected of a fireworks festival. It's true. There are rat-shaped fireworks because this is the year of the rat, and it follows the 12 zodiacs and is different every year. A local shop assistant, Zhong Dake, replied. How about this? Whoever has seen it before will give up their spots for the others to go, and they must come back early. Ju Ying looked at Ji Wen's expectant eyes and finally nodded in agreement. Thank you, mistress. We'll be back after watching the fireworks. Ji Wen turned around and ran after that. Fang Qing and Ji Wu immediately followed. In the end, even Zhao Sheng's family of 3 followed suit. Ju Ying looked at Zhao Cheng, Chun Niang, and Qiu Niang. You guys aren't going? Maybe next year. The kitchen can't be left empty. Zhao Cheng said, shaking his head. Besides, they could also see the fireworks from the 2nd floor, and there was no need to join the crowd. All right, then we'll take turns next year. Just as Ju Ying finished speaking, Jiyu Chungrue walked over. Babe, I heard that the fireworks tonight will be beautiful. Let's go and take a look. Without waiting for her to speak, Sun Hongliang replied, You guys go ahead. There aren't many customers now, so just a few of us will do. Sorry for the trouble. Ju Ying apologized and went to the back. She changed out of her work uniform and took out a large bag of terror-inducing powder mixed with devil's pepper and mustard from her interspace. Keep this well, she said as she handed it to Sun Hongliang. Although it's not straight-up poison, it might as well be. Remember, you all are the most important. If we lose these objects, we can always repurchase them. Don't worry, mistress. We will definitely protect the restaurant. Zhong Dake's nose twitched. He had only heard of servants sacrificing their lives to protect their master's goods and never heard of the master sacrificing their interests to protect a servant's life. This made him touched. The others quickly chimed in. All right, we'll go now. We'll bring you gifts when we come back. Ju Ying said her farewell and left the restaurant with Jiyu Chungrue. At that moment, Jiyu Chungrue thought of the packet of terror-inducing powder and held her hand to ask, Did something happen? Just in case. I hope I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, said Ju Ying. She told him about her encounter with the thief today and the town's refugees. Jiyu Chungrue nodded in agreement. That's good. With so many people gathered in the town, some petty thieves will inevitably be around. However, I heard that County Mayor Kong has also brought the garrison here. There should be no problem with safety. I see. It's good that there won't be any major trouble. Ju Ying replied, and the two looked around the roadside stalls. There was a variety of food, especially snacks. There were fried cakes, radish cakes, vegetable bowls, and so on. However, they only focused on handicrafts. Each bought a lantern with a mouse pattern. They saw a doll, the kind with embroidery. Jiyu Chungrue then bought Ju Ying a small pig doll with a curled tail based on her zodiac sign. This is for you. Thank you. Ju Ying took it with a smile and thanked him. She wanted to kiss him, but after looking around, she didn't continue. Ju Ying and her husband went to a stand and asked the owner to make a pair of clay figurines according to their appearance. Chungrue, third sister-in-law. I see you two have also come to get a clay figurine made. Jiyu Chengshi walked over and greeted her with a smile. Chapter 183 Fireworks 3. Jiyu Chungrue turned his head and saw that he was alone, so he asked, Did you come on your own? Yes, we're setting up a stall in front of the shop today and selling millet cakes. Jiyu Chengshi pointed at a stall not far away. Jiyu Chungrue turned his head and saw his second uncle Jiyu standing in front of their shop. He was guarding the stall, and there were many customers there. But thinking about it, it made sense. Most of the people who came to see the fireworks were from low-income families. A piece of cake would be enough to fill their stomachs. Do you want to come with us? Jiyu Chungrue asked. Can I? Jiyu Chengshi asked expectantly. Of course, As long as you don't run around. You guys wait for a minute, I'll go and inform my father. Upon hearing this, Jiyu Chengshi immediately turned around and ran back as if he were afraid that Jiyu Chengrui would go back on his words. When he came back, their clay figurine had already been made. Ju Ying saw that it looked pretty similar to her, so she asked the stall owner to make another one for Jiyu Chengshi. After it was done, Jiyu Chengrui held one figurine in each hand and walked toward the river. When they arrived, they found that it was already crowded. Fortunately, a row of lanterns was hanging by the river, which lit up the riverbank, so the people were still standing around orderly, and there was no chaos. At the same time, through the conversations of the people, they learned that County Mayor Kong and a group of officials had already returned after paying their respects to the river god. Just as the three of them were looking forward to the fireworks, the sound of gongs and drums suddenly rang out. The crowd erupted in applause as a group of lion dancers emerged from a warehouse near the dock and walked up the river bank. The crowd naturally followed, and Ju Ying's group of three naturally did not fall behind. The lively lion dance was fun to watch. One moment it was walking near the table, and the next moment it jumped on it nimbly, attracting a burst of applause. When they reached a riverbank outside the town, the lion dance stopped. As soon as they left, everyone saw the row of fireworks prepared by the river. Chengrui, what do you think this kind of fireworks will look like? Jiyu Chengshi asked curiously. I'm not sure, but judging from the exquisite workmanship, it should be quite good. Jiyu Chengrui shook his head. To be honest, I thought the 15th day would be a lantern festival, where people would guess riddles and play with lanterns. I never expected this festival to be so grand. Ju Ying said expectantly. Don't you always guess riddles on the 15th in the capital? I'm already tired of it, and it's not fun at all. Jiyu Chengshi shook his head. This is a local custom, and each place has its own customs and traditions. That's why it's better to travel and see it for yourself instead of just hearing about it. Only after experiencing it personally can you understand the fun. Jiyu Chengrui reminded her. At that moment, a commotion suddenly broke out in the crowd. Then, a group of soldiers ran in and drove the crowd 1 mile away from the fireworks. It seems like it's about to start. Let's stand back a little. After Jiyu Chengrui finished speaking, he led them and retreated. This was because gunpowder wasn't something that humans could entirely control in ancient times. The slightest error would cause it to deviate from its intended path, which would be problematic if they were injured. Thus, the three retreated all the way to a pile of ruins far from the riverbank. After that, the three simply stood on top of the ruins. Not only could they see the entire scenery from here, but there weren't many people either. Soon, as the gongs and drums sounded, sky lanterns flew into the sky, lighting up the dark night. The first rack of fireworks was lit up when the lanterns were almost gone. As the fluorescent yellow fireball fell to the ground, the fireworks started emitting a blue light, which looked stunning in the night. Chapter 184 Rest. The following fireworks were in the shape of a crowned crane. Before it was ignited, the red-crowned crane looked elegant, its white feathers fluttering in the wind as if it were about to ascend to the immortal world. After it was lit, with a melodic sizzling sound, oval-shaped eggs fell from the crane's tail and exploded into a ball of fire in mid-air. It really looked like it was laying eggs. What a spectacular scene. In the end, the crowned crane soared into the sky and burned brightly in the night. Next was a fish, and finally, a rat. When the final rat-shaped firework was released, the people were still unsatisfied. At that moment, a scream suddenly rang out. It was unknown what the scream was about, but soon there was a commotion, which finally turned into chaos. After a while, the three discovered that someone had lost a child, and someone else shouted that they had also lost a girl. Let's go back to the restaurant, Jiyu Chengrui said. I'm afraid we won't be able to go home today. Why? Jiyu Chengshi asked in confusion. Because so many children have gone missing, the authorities will definitely lock down the town for an inspection. Or rather, they have already locked it down, so we can't go home. Ju Ying said. Oh, then where are we going to stay? These human traffickers really deserve to die. Jiyu Chengshi said it gloomily. You go back to your snack shop. If you don't have a place to stay, You can come to our place and squeeze in with the others. Jiyu Chungrui said. Thank you for taking me in, third brother. Jiyu Chengshi immediately grabbed his arm and said. Jiyu Chungrui smiled and didn't say anything else as the three hurried back. When they passed the snack shop, they realized it was locked. They didn't know if the others had gone to watch the fireworks or if they had gone home, so they brought Jiyu Chengshi back to the restaurant. Sun Hongliang, who was settling the accounts, saw them come in and asked, Mistress, why have you all come back this fast? Have the others returned yet? Ju Ying asked. Not yet, but it should be soon. Something happened over there. I heard that some people lost their children. If you're done recording the accounts, you can go back first, and we'll stay here tonight. Sun Hongliang was stunned for a moment. Thinking of his family, he nodded. Then I'll go back first and come back early tomorrow. After he finished, he put a sheet of paper into the account book, closed it, and locked it in the drawer with the bookmark. After he left, Ju Ying also allowed Zhong Da and the others to return and closed up shop. As for the group of little beggars, she didn't let them go. First, it was so she could keep an eye on them, as it wasn't safe for them to go back now. Therefore, they were gathered in the central room in the backyard. They laid out a few straw mats and a few blankets so the children could sleep in the room for the night. As for Jiyu Chengshi, it was arranged for him to sleep with Zhao Sheng. Soon, Jiyu Wen and the other two ran in, talking and laughing. However, after waiting a long time, Li Sheng's family of three did not appear. Ju Ying suddenly felt a little uneasy, afraid that something would happen to Li Yu. Fortunately, the family of three finally came back around midnight. What's the matter with you guys? Ju Ying asked hurriedly. Why are you back so late? After the fireworks, they discovered human traffickers. The officers immediately sealed off the scene and checked everyone one by one. We were delayed when we were queuing, Li Sheng said with a fearful expression. He hugged Li Yu tightly after he finished speaking. I see, you guys should go to bed early. Ju Ying comforted them and told the family of three to go home. After they left, Jiyu Chungrui turned his head and said, Babe, you should go to sleep too. I'll be fine here. That's right. Sister-in-law, you should go to sleep. Brother Jiyu and I will take care of things here. Tian Jiawang walked over and said. Chapter 185 Seedling. Alright, remember to call me if you need anything. Ju Ying told them. She turned around and took a pot of coals back to the main room. The night passed peacefully. The next morning, everyone got up and went to do their own thing. After breakfast, when Sun Hongliang and the others came to work, everyone discovered that the officers had investigated the entire night and caught a small group of human traffickers in a yard in town early in the morning. They also heard that several villages had reported that someone had stolen food from their village. Therefore, the entire town was in a mess now. Officers and soldiers searched everywhere. As a result, business was low throughout the day. During the inspection in the morning, they treated 2 soldiers to a meal. Fortunately, the soldiers were tight on time and only had a bowl of beef noodles each before they left. In the evening, when Ju Ying and the other 3 went back on the donkey cart, they learned from Qian Zhuang and Jiyu Hanjiang that every village was guarding strictly against strangers. If it weren't for the fact that they were used to wandering around this area, they wouldn't be able to enter the village, let alone collect vegetables. Miss, Qian Zhuang said after he finished complaining, the vegetables in each village are almost all harvested, and it won't be easy to buy more of them in the future. I see, but I guess it's normal since there's a food shortage. You guys should go to the different villages and look since we can't do business if we don't have produce. We will try that then. I just don't know if they'll sell it to us. You can ask around. You can tell me if you find any, but they aren't willing to sell. I can talk to them about it. Alright, leave this to us brothers. When Qian Zhuang heard that he only needed to ask for information, he immediately patted his chest. Yes. By the way, starting next month, you will each be paid 500 coppers. Really? Thank you so much, miss. Jiyu Jiang said with a smile. As long as you guys work hard, your salary will rise. Definitely, we'll definitely do a good job. The 2 of them nodded. It was challenging to get a long-term job in their village. Another main thing was that this work was easy and comfortable, so they didn't want to give up. Half a month later, the river was opened for business. Once the merchants arrived, the dock became lively, and of course, the business of all restaurants got better. At the same time, the land wasn't frozen solid anymore. Because of Gu Chengrui's previous talk about growing chili, buying up barren land in the village became particularly popular. The Gu family alone bought 5 acres of it. When Ju Ying saw this, she had to hurry up and water the land in her backyard. She found a plow and plowed about 80% of the land in the back. She also bought a torp to build a simple, warm shed to grow chili seedlings. At the same time, she had planted 10 acres of chili seedlings on the manor's grassland. Of course, the dormitories she had promised Uncle Yang and the others had already started construction, all of which were made of real bricks. As a result, 12 long-term workers brought their wives and children to the manor to settle down. When the villagers learned that Ju Ying had begun to grow seedlings, they began to speed up plowing their newly bought land. Chun Hong could finally go out after an entire month of rest. After a month of patient advice from Widow Hua, in addition to the fact that the Jiu brothers had avoided her like the plague when she was in trouble. And later, she was also met with Jiu Zishan's indifference, which made Chun Hong understand the reality of her situation. Even if she didn't mind being married into the Jiu family, who were sinners in the capital, the Jiu family wouldn't accept her. Thus, she gave up on the idea of entering the Jiu family. Widow Hua went to the vegetable garden one day to do some gardening while Chun Hong had nothing to do. So, she thought of going to town to pick up some handiwork. Just as she left the embroidery workshop after taking a job, she was knocked out by a drug when passing by an alleyway. She was stuffed into a carriage and brought to a small courtyard. Chapter 186. She saw a chubby, middle-aged man standing before her when she woke up. She quickly stood up from the chair and demanded, "Who are you? Why did you capture me?" Chun Hong, who lives in Shanghe village and has a widowed mother. Previously, you were an assistant chef in a manor in Xiahe village. You were also the one who passed on Miss Chao's message to Jiu Chengrui. The man turned around and sat on the chair opposite her. Your manager Wang of the original Dongshin restaurant. Chun Hong sized him up and asked in disbelief. It seems that your memory is decent. Wang Quan nodded in satisfaction. Why did you bring me here? For my use. No, I refuse. Do you think you can refuse? Wang Quan sneered. When Chun Hong heard this, she quickly looked around and saw 2 big men standing guard outside the door. She immediately asked softly, "What do you want me to do? You also know that Dongshin restaurant was originally mine. I just want to take it back." But that's impossible. I heard that the Grassland Taste restaurant, like the Hongyun restaurant, is under General Ju. Don't worry about that. If you want to live a good life, you better just listen to me. What do you want me to do? Get away to work inside Grassland Taste restaurant and get the recipe for the hot pot. Ultimately, make Jiu Chengrui and Ju Ying fall out. Chun Hong didn't understand what he meant at first, but she quickly realized that he was asking her to seduce Jiu Chengrui. Thinking of Miss Chiao getting rejected and Ju Ying's appearance, she shook her head. "I'm afraid it won't work. You'd better find a more beautiful woman to do it. This job is yours. As long as you follow my plan, I promise to make you the manager of Grassland Taste Restaurant." After Wang Quan finished speaking, he pulled her into the house. When Chun Hong saw this, she immediately had a bad feeling in her heart. She immediately struggled and said, "I'll do it. I'll do it, all right? Just let me go." "How will you do what I say if I let you go?" Wang Quan laughed and pushed her onto the bed in his room, then ripped off her clothes and pounced on her. No, let me go. I beg you, let me go. I'll promise you anything," Chun Hong shouted with distress. However, her cries for help were soon muffled. When she came out again, her hair was disheveled, her eyes were red and swollen, and there was even blood at the corner of her mouth. The clothes on her body were torn and tattered, and she looked like a rag doll that had been dismembered. Wang Quan, who was behind her, walked out in a refreshed manner. "Someone, help her wash up and get her a change of clothes." After he finished speaking, He left the room in big strides. Soon, 2 maids came in with a basin. They gave her a simple wash and changed her into a set of neat, coarse clothes. Then, they turned around and walked out. Chun Hong returned to her senses, picked up her bag, and ran out. At that moment, Wang Quan stepped back in, and she was so frightened that she immediately retreated. Seeing this, Wang Quan stepped forward and pinched her little face with a smile. "Silly girl, I'm helping you here." Afterward, he pulled her to a chair and told her some things in a low voice. "After this matter is done, you will not be short of glory, splendor, wealth, or status." After hearing this, Chun Hong only looked at him angrily and did not reply. "It's wrong of you to hate me. You should hate Jiyu Chungrui and his wife. Would you have to be in this state if it weren't for them? Remember, you don't have much time," Wang Quan threatened. "You have to hurry. Otherwise, you and your mother." At this point, a cold light flashed in Wang Quan's eyes, and he continued, "Don't play any tricks with me. From now on, you will always be under my surveillance." Chapter 187 Request You. After hearing this, Chun Hong gritted her teeth and looked at him angrily. "Haha, you look so full of hatred. You should be redirecting that to Jiyu Chungrui and Ju Ying," Wang Quan said as he stood up again. "Go. I don't care what method you use. Get into the Grassland Taste restaurant within 3 days, and I'll come to you." Looking at his shameless appearance, Chun Hong wanted to tear him apart. However, on second thought, she realized that her situation was partly due to Jiyu Chungrui and his wife. Hence, she did not refute and instead got up and left. Seeing this, Wang Quan went out and sent a man to follow her. After leaving town, Chun Hong realized that someone was following her. She quickly thought of what Wang Quan had said before, turning around to look. Sure enough, it was the person she had seen in the small courtyard. This person didn't avoid being seen at all, and he just followed her casually. She was shocked and scared, realizing that it seemed she could not escape. After Ju Ying and Jiyu Chungrui returned in the evening, they went to the backyard to check on the chili seedlings. After confirming that they had sprouted, the two finally breathed a sigh of relief. After dinner, Chun Hong came to their door. Jiyu Chungrui looked at her awkward way of walking and frowned. "Miss Chun Hong, you've sprained your leg again. You must be more careful, otherwise, it will leave behind problems in your leg if you do it too many times." Ju Ying glanced at her but soon found that her situation wasn't right. It didn't look like she had a sprained foot. Instead, it looked like. Chun Hong looked at the couple's puzzled eyes and was shocked. She had tried her best to cover it up and didn't expect them to see through it. She laughed dryly. "I'm sorry to have embarrassed myself in front of you, Dr. Jiyu. I didn't sprain my foot this time. It's just that I accidentally slipped and stretched my muscles. So, I wanted to get some medicine to relax my muscles and help my blood flow. I'll give you some safflower oil then. It's good and useful for your case." Jiyu Chungrui decided. He returned to the house and took out a small bottle of safflower oil, handing it to her. 5 coppers. "All right." Chun Hong took it and gave him 5 coppers. However, she didn't have any intention of leaving. Instead, she looked at them hesitantly. "Is there anything else, Miss Chun Hong?" Ju Ying asked. Chun Hong pursed her lips and took a deep breath. "I don't know if your restaurant is still short of people, but I want to find a job. By the way, I used to work as a kitchen helper in the manor of Shaha village. I can cook common noodle dishes and am good at chopping vegetables." Ju Ying felt strange. She had heard from her 6th aunt that Chung Hong had been pestering Jiyu Chungye ever since she returned from the manor. Why did she suddenly want to work in a restaurant? She suddenly thought of the matter of Mrs. Liu asking them for the dessert recipe. Did this matter have anything to do with Mrs. Liu and her son? Thinking of this, she decided to be cautious and refused, saying, "I'm really sorry, but our restaurant doesn't need to recruit people at the moment. We'll talk about it in the future if there's an opportunity." When Chun Hong heard this, she was stunned. However, when she thought of Wang Quan's threat, she could only brace herself and say, "I'm begging you. I don't ask for much. Even if I have to do odd jobs, I'm fine, but please just hire me." "But why do you have to enter our restaurant?" Ju Ying asked with a faint smile. Chun Hong looked at Ju Ying's suspicious eyes, and her heart trembled. Could it be that she had exposed herself? No way to calm down, and deliberately held her breath. After her face turned red from the lack of oxygen, she said with a troubled expression, "You know my family's situation. It's not easy to support ourselves, and we don't have much silver left. So I thought of saving up some dowry and then leaving some money for my mother's retirement." Chapter 188 Chili Seedlings. Ju Ying and Jiyu Chungrue looked at each other. In the end, Ju Ying still nodded with a troubled expression. "All right, you can come, but only to help clear the tables and do cleaning jobs. As for the monthly payment, it's 300 coppers. Of course, the reason she agreed so readily was not that they really pitied her. Although there were only a mother and daughter in their family, they had 5 acres of land. In addition, Widow Hua's needlework was spectacular, and she had always taken on a lot of work in the village or town. Chun Hong's excuse wasn't valid at all. Instead, she felt that there must be something strange about her doing this, and it was better to keep her under their nose and see what she was up to. "Thank you, you too. Can I come to work the day after tomorrow? My legs are a little weak now." Chun Hong asked with a smile. "Sure, but remember, you must be at the restaurant by noon. Otherwise, we'll have to dock your pay if you're late. We'll deduct 3 coppers for each time you're late, which is our restaurant's rule." Ju Ying reminded her. Chun Hong was stunned for a moment as she did not expect there to be such a rule, but she still nodded and said, "All right, I'll remember that. You guys go ahead with your work, and I'll head back now." After saying that, she turned around and walked out. Seeing this, Ju Ying sent her out. Just as she was about to lock the door, the patriarch and the village chief came together. She hurriedly greeted them. "Grandpa Village Chief, Uncle, please excuse me. I'll go make a pot of tea." "Oh, there's no need for that when it's so late. We'll leave after we ask you something." The patriarch quickly stopped her. "Uncle, you're here for the chili, right?" Jiyu Chungrue asked. "Yes, I wanted to ask you how many seeds you can give out. Now that the villagers' enthusiasm is high, the Chen clan also wants to plant them. I'm afraid you won't have enough seeds, which will disappoint everyone." The parrot nodded. Indeed, this matter has to be settled in advance. Otherwise, good things may turn bad in the end. The village chief agreed. Jiyu Chungrue nodded in understanding. "I won't hide it from you. We have planted nearly 11 acres of chili seedlings, which will be enough for about 55 to 60 acres of land when they fully grow. I don't know how much land the village had cleaned up. As for the seeds, you can plant them on your own, just like how you usually plant vegetables, but you'll have to wait a little longer. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask why you had to cover the seedlings with a top. Can't you wait for the weather to be warmer before you grow the seedlings?" The village chief asked in confusion. Even the patriarch was curious. He had wanted to ask before, but the oil mill had been busy recently, so he had forgotten. Because there are many pests and diseases in the summer, the rain will also affect the chilies. We want to make them mature earlier to increase their production. Ju Ying explained. Even in modern times, pests and diseases were difficult to control. It was impossible to prevent all of them, so she didn't want to cause more trouble if she didn't prepare fully. The patriarch and the village chief were farmers, so they quickly understood what she meant. They looked at each other and said, "We understand. We'll go back and do the math now. It's been hard on all of you. The extra land can allow everyone to grow more vegetables, such as cabbage, lettuce, and so on. If you guys don't have seeds, I'll help you buy some back, and you all just have to provide the grown vegetables to the restaurant by then." Ju Ying stood up and said, "This is also a way to balance things out. We'll make the arrangements accordingly." The village chief nodded in agreement. After the two of them left, 2 more patients came to visit. After sending them off, the couple went straight into the interspace to work. Many crops had matured and were ready to be harvested. Chapter 189 Sun Liang. After the harvest, other than the 2,000 acres of wheat, the rest of the dry land was planted with sweet potatoes. Ju Ying also collected some peach flowers. She planned to wait for this year's coconuts, olives, and moon laurel to ripen and extract some oil to make some lipstick products for sale. In the blink of an eye, it was the day when Chunhong came to the restaurant. Ju Ying waited for her to show up and told Fang Qing and Chun Niang to keep an eye on her and try to understand her purpose for coming here. 2 days later, Ju Ying learned from Chun Niang that Chunhong had asked about the hot pot recipe more than once. But this was still in Ju Ying's hands, and everyone told her that. After Ju Ying got the news, she guessed it probably wasn't Mrs. Liu and her son coercing Chunhong. Who could it be, then? She called Fang Qing over and said, "For the next 2 days, you and the little beggars will keep an eye on Chunhong and see who she will be in contact with. Remember, just keep an eye on them and don't take any risks. As for the rest, well, discuss it after you come back and decide what to do." "I understand. Leave this matter to us." Fang Qing immediately went to find the little beggars to make arrangements. When Chunhong knew that the recipe was in Ju Ying's hands and that the spices would be ground into powder every time, she knew it was impossible for her to steal the recipe. Therefore, after finishing her work at noon, Chunhong left the restaurant with the excuse that she needed to help Widow Hua buy some spools. Seeing this, Fang Qing immediately followed her. However, he soon realized that Chunhong was being watched. In order to prevent the other party from discovering him, he had to send a little beggar to follow her. The little beggar was brilliant. He didn't go alone but found a friend who was begging outside to follow him. His companion was young and dressed in beggar's clothes, and they followed Chunhong to a small courtyard without a hitch. He inquired around the courtyard before returning to Grassland Taste Restaurant through the back door and informing Fang Qing of the news. Then, Fang Qing led his friends to Ju Ying and told her about it. "Sun Liang. Who is this person again?" Ju Ying was confused after hearing that. No matter what, she still cooked a bowl of beef noodles for his friend and said, "Eat first, but you have to remember that you can't tell anyone about what happened today. Otherwise, it will put you in danger. Do you understand?" "Manager Ju, don't worry. We understand," his friend said with a smile as he chewed on the beef. Ju Ying looked at his lively eyes and said, "Little guy, how old are you? What's your name?" "My name is Ju Zi. I'm 7 years old today. Don't worry, I'm very tight-lipped. I believe you. Hurry up and eat." Ju Ying reassured him and turned to the kitchen. She took out 2 pounds of rice and handed it to him, saying, "This is the reward for this mission." "Thank you, Manager Ju." Ju Zi immediately stood up and bowed. Ju Ying smiled, pinched his little face, and then went to work. When they got home in the evening, Ju Ying told Jiyu Chungrui about the matter. "Rui, do you remember a person named Sun Liang? I don't have any impression of it. I'll go back and ask to see who he is." "All right. It's fine if they only want to steal the recipe, but I'm afraid they'll use some dirty means." Jiyu Chungrui nodded thoughtfully and said, "Remind the people in the kitchen to oversee the ingredients. I'll find out as soon as possible." However, Ju Ying was still worried the next day after telling everyone the news. Finally, she simply installed a camera in a hidden corner and connected it to her mobile phone. This way, she could check it every day to prevent any accidents. On the other end, Chunhong knew that since it was not easy to get the prescription, she had to drive a wedge between the couple first. So the next day, she was thinking of ways to get close to Jiyu Chungrui, causing her to be distracted. Chapter 190 Responsibility befitting your position. So after Chunhong broke another small plate, Sun Hongliang walked over and asked, "Chunhong, can you keep up? If you can't, then leave as soon as possible. Look at how distracted you are today. You don't look like you're even trying to work. Manager Sun, please show mercy. I will definitely do my best, so please don't fire me." Chunhong hurriedly nodded and bowed. "I'll give you one last chance. If you screw up again, you'll be gone." Sun Hongliang paused and said, "By the way, I'll deduct the cost of this plate from your monthly salary." After saying that, he turned around and left. As for Chunhong, she bit her lip sadly. She thought of the people watching her outside, didn't refute, and obediently cleared the table. However, she was harboring hatred for Sun Hongliang inside her. It was just a plate. Why did he have to make such a big deal out of it? Moreover, Ju Ying brought her here, but they didn't even give her special treatment. Thinking of this, a cold light flashed in her eyes. Since he started it, don't blame her for being heartless. Therefore, when they were resting after lunch, Chun Hong deliberately went to Ju Ying's room to complain about Sun Hongliang. She mainly complained that Sun Hongliang was disrespecting her. Ju Ying had been in the society for a few years, so she knew that Chun Hong was attempting to sow discord between them. She looked at her meaningfully and said, "When you were working at the Chiao family's manor, were you also absent-minded from time to time? Do you not need to pay for the things you broke?" After Chun Hong heard this, she raised her head and looked at her in surprise. Why was Ju Ying acting differently from what she had imagined? Ju Ying looked at her expression and sneered, "A country has its laws, and a family has its own rules. Manager Sun is just following the management of our restaurant, otherwise, he would be punished. You should take a rest for now. Later, I will have Manager Sun read out the rules and regulations of the restaurant to you. You must firmly remember that if you commit the same mistake again in the future, I won't help you. Yes, I'll go and rest." After hearing this, Chun Hong walked out with a face full of unwillingness. At the same time, she also hated Ju Ying. "Leave the rest to me." Sun Hongliang heaved a sigh of relief. "How could I? You are just doing what you needed to do. Since I've given you the power, you have to take responsibility. Otherwise, the restaurant will be in chaos." "Yes, I'll do my best. I believe you. Keep an eye on her in the afternoon, as I plan to go to the manor after I'm done." Ju Ying then entered the kitchen. After finishing her work in the afternoon, she rushed back to the manor. When she arrived at the manor, she went straight to the chili field to look. Seeing that the plants were growing well, she was relieved. After that, she went to the dormitory area. She didn't expect that a row of brick houses had almost been finished building in less than 10 days, and the only thing missing was the roof. Uncle Yang, who had just come out of the sheepfold, saw her and immediately walked over with a smile. "Mistress, why are you here alone? I'm the only one who's free." "By the way," Ju Ying asked, "when is the roof for these houses going to be done?" "I was just about to tell you about this. I heard from the contractor that the day after tomorrow, at noon, you two must come." "Sure, it's going to be a big day." "Well, definitely come. By the way, how's the manor lately?" Chapter 191 Drought? Pretty good, but it's a little dry. It's been half a year, and there's only been one small rain. We don't really have enough water. Uncle Yang shook his head. "The wheat has just been watered after the new year," he added. "I don't think it'll take more than 5 days to water them again." Ju Ying was shocked after hearing this. She had yet to pay attention to this before, and it seemed that she had to make preparations in advance. For some reason, she suddenly thought of the nightmares she had while living in the Mother God's temple. Was it an early warning for her? At this moment, Uncle Yang said, "The year of the ox and horse was good for farming. I was afraid of the 2 years of the rooster and monkey and didn't expect that we would survive these 2 years but struggle in the year of the rat." After Ju Ying heard this, she was stunned. She remembered that the year of the rat in the modern era wasn't good and took this hint seriously. After that, she chatted with the old man for a while and asked him to help keep an eye on the manor. Then, she turned around and went into the wheat field. The wheat had already turned green, but the seedlings weren't strong. The main issue was that the seedlings were sparse and even died in patches. Her expression immediately turned grave. After that, she turned around and went to the workshop. Ju Ying found Chang Shun and asked, "Uncle Chang, I saw that the wheat is dying in small patches. What's going on?" "It's dry, and the water can't reach higher places. I was thinking of planting some green vegetables in the next 2 days, and maybe at least we will have something to harvest." When Chang Shun said this, he sighed and continued, "Mistress, there hasn't been a single drop of rain. The wheat can only be watered with water from the river, and I'm afraid it will wither after some more time. No matter what, we must keep some of this season's wheat even if we break our backs. Otherwise, what are we going to eat? Don't you think so?" "That's for sure. I just hope it rains soon." After saying that, Chang Shun looked up at the huge sun in the sky. Why didn't he notice how annoying the sun was before? Seeing this, Ju Ying did not stay any longer. After greeting him goodbye, she went home and began to look for a water wheel drawing. If she could come up with the water wheel, the irrigation of the fields would save a lot of effort. In the evening, Jiyu Chungrui came back with Zhuang. Seeing that there was no smoke coming from the kitchen, he paused for a moment before tying Zhuang up and entering the house. He saw Ju Ying standing in front of the dining table and studying a drawing carefully. He walked over curiously, looked, and was surprised to find a water wheel drawing. He immediately thought of the dry weather and suddenly understood her intentions. Jiyu Chungrui turned around and went to the kitchen. However, there was nothing in the kitchen except some rice and noodles. He had no choice but to come back and ask, "Babe, I'll get you some vegetables." Ju Ying put down the drawing and said, "I'll go and cook while you study the drawing. Find fourth Grandpa Chen to try making one. If we don't think of a way to get the wheat fields in the manner to survive, I'm afraid we can't even keep the wheat seeds for next year." "All right, you can make something light for dinner. It's easy to get heaty now that the weather is dry." Jiyu Chungrui agreed, and he took the drawing to study it. After Ju Ying went to the kitchen, she cooked a pot of green bean porridge, 5 steamed buns, and then mixed cold side dishes made of silver ears, celery, and crisp lotus roots. She also fried a portion of bacon and some winter bamboo shoots. After the meal, Jiyu Chungrui took the drawing and looked for the patriarch, and the two went looking for the village chief together. They knew this was a good thing. If it came to fruition, the entire village could plant rice easily. As a result, the three did not waste time and went straight to find the fourth Grandpa Chen. Fourth Grandpa Chen also understood the importance of this matter. Since the village chief was here especially, he selected 2 people to focus on making the water wheel. Chapter 192 Fired on the morning of the 3rd day, after Ju Ying had prepared the base and dipping sauce for the hot pot in the restaurant, she had bought half a pig and 100 pounds of rice. After that, she rented an ox cart and rushed to the manor. However, the two didn't step forward to get involved when the roof was lifted. The owners of the houses then came forward to receive the gifts she had prepared for them. After they were done with their work, everyone had a good meal together. After the meal, the couple rushed back to town. "Babe, should we buy another cart?" Jiyu Chungrui asked when they were about to part. "It's troublesome to keep depending on one donkey cart." "True, then I'll buy the most ordinary-looking one. I don't want to be targeted by others." "I understand. I'll get an advance from the clinic." After Jiyu Chungrui finished speaking, he turned around and returned to his clinic. While there was no one in the kitchen, Ju Ying changed her phone and took it back to her room, where she looked through it carefully. As expected, when no one was around at noon, Chun Hong went to the kitchen. She wrapped a small amount of each seasoning and quietly exited the kitchen. Ju Ying's eyes narrowed when she saw this. It seemed that Chun Hong was really here for the recipe. Unfortunately, she usually prepared the seasoning for the hot pot by herself and never put it in the kitchen, so no matter how much she took, she couldn't come up with the recipe for the hot pot base. However, she knew that Chun Hong couldn't stay anymore. Otherwise, who knew what she would do next? So, before work began in the afternoon, Ju Ying took 100 coppers from the cabinet, called Chun Hong to the backyard, and handed it to her. "Chun Hong, I've realized that the work here isn't suitable for you. You'd better find another job. This is double the salary for the past few days. Consider it a small compensation from us." "Why? I've been doing a good job these days. I've been strictly following the restaurant's rules and regulations," Chun Hong said indignantly. "Then recite the 4th rule." Ju Ying sneered. "You are not allowed to steal in the restaurant, and you must hand over a guest's belongings if you picked them up." After Chun Hong finished reciting, she was stunned for a moment as she thought of something, and her expression turned ugly. Ju Ying said directly, "I think you already understand the reason. I don't need to say anything further, right? It'll be embarrassing if I continue." Chun Hong's face turned red after she heard that. Then, she puffed up her cheeks and glared at Ju Ying angrily before turning around and running out. Seeing this, Ju Ying shook her head and began getting busy. When she was almost done with her work, Jiyu Chungrui drove an unremarkable carriage to the main entrance. After Ju Ying received the news, she immediately called Da Hua over. As for Tian Jiawang, he had to wait for Qian Zhuang and the others before he could go back. After dinner, Jiyu Chungrui asked, "Did you fire Chunhong today?" "Yes. This afternoon, she stole some spices from the kitchen, so I fired her." Ju Ying then asked curiously, "Have you found out who Sun Liang is?" She was sure Chunhong would contact the person who ordered her around if she was fired. Yes, Sun Liang is his current name. He used to be the manager of Dongshan restaurant, Wang Quan. Wang Quan? Could it be the Qiao family? It's very likely. It seems like they're going to make a move, and we must be careful. Fine, but you have to be careful when you make a house visitation. Don't let anyone take advantage of that. Jiyu Chungrui nodded in agreement. I will be careful. The same goes for the restaurant. Haha, I've installed a camera in the kitchen. If anyone dares do anything, I'll not let them off. Jiyu Chungrui was stunned for a moment, and then he smiled. All right, but be careful. Don't let anyone find out. Otherwise, it'll be bad for you. Chapter 193. A chase. On the other hand, in a manor in the northern part of the town, Qiao Lansheng said after listening to Wang Quan's report, that means they're vigilant. It's only been a few days, and they've already found out about the girl. Indeed. I thought that it would take some time and didn't expect them to react so quickly. They are more difficult to deal with than we thought. Did they find you out? I think they have. Some strangers have appeared outside the courtyard these past 2 days. They probably fired her after confirming my identity. All right, since we've already alerted them, let's move on to the second step. After Qiao Lansheng finished speaking, his eyes turned sharp, and he crushed the teacup in his hand. Young master, Wang Quan said hesitantly, are you sure this will alarm the third prince's forces here? If we are exposed first, we are doomed. The two are Zhu Huiming's saviors, and they get along well. Do you think Manager Liu would do nothing if something happened to them? As soon as he moves, we'll take them from the back. I don't believe that we can't find their nest. But the county mayor still has a garrison. Don't worry, I have my own arrangements. All right, I will make the arrangements then. Go, but remember not to go to that courtyard in the future. Also, try not to show your face again. I understand. Wang Quan answered and left for the lower room. The next day, Jiyu Chungrui was returning from the village when he saw 2 people approaching him in a hurry. Jiyu Chungrui was shocked to see their fierce faces. When did such people appear in a small town? Before he could think further, the 2 of them rushed over to Jiyu Chungrui. Jiyu Chungrui immediately realized that the 2 were coming for him. He immediately turned around and started running in a zigzag line. At the same time, he opened his first aid box and took out the knockout powder and the air gun hidden inside. He threw the knockout powder into the air and quickly pierced through the paper bag, scattering the powder around. However, the 2 men were smart. When they saw that something was wrong, they immediately separated. When Jiyu Chungrui saw this, he used the air gun to hit the arm of the person who was chasing him the closest. That person had been distracted for a moment because he dodged the knockout powder. During that split second of distraction, the steel bead hit his arm. He grimaced in pain, and the other man was shocked by this. None of them had expected that he had not only hidden medicine but also hidden weapons. For a moment, they didn't dare act rashly and wanted to see what he was up to. Seeing this, Jiyu Chungrui grinned and took the opportunity to replace the steel balls in the gun with 2 anesthetic needles. However, he didn't shoot at them when they were on full alert. Instead, he turned around and ran into the mountains. If he could, he wanted to kill them in the mountains. When the 2 of them saw him enter the mountain, they looked at each other and immediately gave chase. Otherwise, if he ran away, they would not be able to report back, and their companions would also laugh at them. They did not expect that Jiyu Chungrui, a scholar, could tear through the mountainous terrain like a monkey. He was running faster than they could, and soon his figure disappeared. Damn, we got outdated info. Who said that he was just a doctor with some skills? His endurance and speed are better than ours. One of them held onto a tree and exclaimed while panting. We've indeed underestimated our enemy. If we had known, we would have waited until we got closer before making our move. The other replied in frustration. As soon as he finished speaking, he froze for a moment before falling to the ground. Chapter 194. Turning the tables. The other man was shocked, and just as he was about to go forward to check, he suddenly felt a sting on his back. He then quickly fell over on top of the other man. Jiyu Chungrui brushed away the loose grass on his head and climbed out of a bush. He stepped forward and retrieved the 2 needles, searched their bodies, and found 5 taels of silver and a banknote worth 90 taels of silver with 2 daggers. However, he did not find anything that could prove their identity. This was fine, and he could now take everything for himself. After packing up, he sat on the side and thought about how to deal with them. Ultimately, he used their daggers and stabbed each of their thighs, relieved to see they didn't wake up. As for whether they would bleed to death or be eaten by wild beasts, it was none of his business. As he descended the mountain, he was relieved that there was no hocus-pocus or fantastical martial arts in this world. Otherwise, he knew he wouldn't be able to escape death today. Now, he was just curious as to who sent these 2 men. After much thought, he could pin it on Qiao Lansheng of the Qiao family. It seemed like he had to alert his wife as soon as possible. At the thought of this, he quickened his pace. He did not know that he had not walked far when 2 more people came out of hiding. These 2 weren't as kind as Jiyu Chungrui, as they dragged the 2 attackers into the mountains and fed them to the wolves. It was almost dark when Jiyu Chungrui returned to his clinic. After keeping his earnings there, he drove his cart to the restaurant. Since Chen Zhuang and the others were also there, they went home together. After they arrived home and finished dinner, Jiyu Chungrui told Zhu Ying about the assassination attempt. "Babe, don't go out alone anymore. Remember to prepare something for self-defense, too. You're not hurt, are you?" Zhu Ying looked at him and asked. "No, I didn't let them get close to me." Jiyu Chungrui reassured her. "Remember, don't go out alone in the future." "I know, but I'm mainly worried about you. If worse comes to worst on my end, I'll just bring them into my interspace and kill them." "Alright, but you have to be careful when using your interspace. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if you're discovered." After that, the couple cleaned up, and Jiyu Chungrui had to attend to 3 more patients. The 2 entered the interspace as night fell, preparing their self-defense items, and then got busy. Manager Liu also found out about Jiyu Chengrui's incident through 2 of his men. He sighed and said, "I foresee it's going to get worse. You 2 must protect their safety. However, if they can handle it, just do what you did today and help them clean up. Of course, it'd be best to find out the enemy's hiding place. Remember, you must be extremely careful and not chase after a cornered enemy." "We understand, Uncle Liu. Well, take our leave then." The 2 of them nodded solemnly. "All right. Go down and take 2 taels of silver as your reward." Manager Liu nodded. After that, he went out to look for Sun Hongliang and instructed, "The snakes are starting to come out of their holes. You must be careful over there and, at the same time, protect their safety." "I understand." Sun Hongliang, his nephew, replied respectfully. "Okay. Also, do a good job fortifying the restaurant's defenses. Don't let them be framed for anything. If that happens, we'll be in a tough spot." "All right," Sun Hongliang then asked in confusion, "Uncle, why don't you just reveal my identity? This way, not only can we better protect them, but we can also save a lot of trouble." Chapter 195. Revelation. If we were to be direct with them, would they still accept you? Manager Liu replied in a miffed tone. "I don't think it's a big deal. Besides, if they had their guard up against us, they wouldn't have accepted me back then. Moreover, according to my observation, honesty and loyalty were the most important things for the husband and wife. They don't have many other concerns. If we continue to hide it like this, it'll be hard to explain if they find out about my identity down the road. Now is the best time to come clean, and this is an opportunity we shouldn't let pass." Manager Liu nodded thoughtfully and replied, "I'll report this to General Zhu and see what he thinks." Afterward, he went to a small courtyard, wrote a note, and sent it out with a pigeon. Over the next 2 days, Zhu Ying and Jiyu Chungrui didn't go out alone. Everything was normal. At the same time, Manager Liu also received General Ju's reply, telling him to do as he saw fit. The uncle and nephew discussed and decided to reveal their positions to avoid any misunderstandings in the future. So, during lunch break, Sun Hongliang went to Ju Ying in the front lobby, whispered his identity as their shadow guard, and bowed deeply. "I've let down your trust. Please punish me." Ju Ying just smiled. To be honest, when Manager Liu brought him here, she already knew that he was someone from General Ju's or the Third Prince's side. Therefore, she wasn't too surprised to hear him reveal his identity. But she didn't expect him to be a shadow guard. She looked at him curiously and asked, "So what you're saying is that you're quite skilled?" Sun Hongliang was stunned for a moment and then nodded. "I'm mainly trained in how to run a business as a manager. However, it shouldn't be a problem for me to deal with a few men." "Wow, I really couldn't tell from your scholarly appearance. You're not angry?" "Why should I be angry? Isn't it fine as long as we cooperate happily? Besides, you're here to protect us. We'll feel much more at ease with you here, so please take care of us in the future." Ju Ying replied with a smile. "Thank you for your trust, mistress." Sun Hongliang smiled and bowed. "Do a good job, and I'll give you 5% of our profits as a bonus at the end of the year." Ju Ying promised. She then turned around and went to the back to take a rest. As for his identity, she couldn't care less as long as he didn't threaten their safety. She would have to be more cautious in the future when removing items from her interspace. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he found something weird and reported it. That night, Ju Ying told Jiyu Chungrui about Sun Hongliang, and he didn't have much reaction either. From the moment they saved Ju Huaiming, they knew they were on the Third Prince's side. Instead, he said, "In that case, you don't have to worry about your business and just have to take hold of the overall situation. Also, ask him to help bring over 1 or 2 more managers. In this way, if he leaves or we open another branch, we will have someone to help." "True. It's a waste not to use a talent delivered to our doorstep. I'll use him appropriately." Ju Ying nodded in agreement. She had to train a few more chefs as she didn't want to waste more time in the back kitchen. Not only was it tedious, but it was also bad for her skin. Jiyu Chungrui smiled and reminded her, "Try not to take things from your interspace to the restaurant. If you really are short of something, ask the workshop to increase their production." "I know." Ju Ying nodded in agreement. "This year's situation isn't going to be good," he added. "Do you think we should take advantage of the fact that the price of food hasn't increased yet and no one is watching us? We could take some grains out of your interspace and store them in the warehouse, just in case." Chapter 196 Panicking due to concern. "Sure. Weren't you going to transport soybeans and green beans here anyway? Mix the grains in with them, but don't put too much, or it'll be hard to explain," Jiyu Chungrui said after a moment of hesitation. "All right." On the other end, Manager Liu found out from Sun Hongliang that not only were Ju Ying and Jiyu Chungrui not angry but were pleased, further placing him in an important position. He felt a little ashamed of his narrow-mindedness. Meanwhile, Wang Quan, who had been waiting for his good news, was in a terrible mood. Not only did the people he sent out not return, but they were nowhere to be seen. Jiyu Chungrui was completely fine, still alive and kicking. Therefore, after cursing for a while, he sent more people out. However, because the 2 men sent out this time were unclear about what happened to their predecessor, they did not keep an eye on Jiyu Chungrui but instead went to Ju Ying. After 2 days, they found that Ju Ying's life was routine, and someone was always accompanying her. She never went to any remote places, which meant they had no chance to do anything. Therefore, they could only think of a way to lure her out. One day, they took advantage of Jiyu Chengruis out for a patient visit and disguised themselves as villagers. They rushed into Grassland Taste Restaurant and found Sun Hongliang asking in a panicked tone, "Do you have a manager called Ju Ying here?" "You're..." Sun Hongliang asked as he looked up at him. "Oh, I'm from Huan Village. Dr. Jiyu was being hunted down on his way to our village. Fortunately, he was saved by our villagers, but he was seriously injured. He instructed me to come over and tell you to call for a doctor and drive a cart to pick him up." Sun Hongliang was shocked when he heard that. After that, he didn't think much about it and went to find Ju Ying to tell her about it. Ju Ying's mind went blank when she heard that. After returning to her senses, she quickly called Fang Qing and said, "Hurry up and get a cart. Well, bring Dr. Luo and set off immediately." "Okay, don't worry. Since Dr. Jiyu can still send someone over, he should be fine." Fang Qing immediately took off his apron. The two got on a carriage, picked up Dr. Luo, and rushed to Huan village. Sun Hongliang waited for them to leave. When he returned, he found the villages had disappeared and felt a little strange. Even if the other party didn't ask for anything in return, they should at least head back together and show them the way. He thought about it and suddenly came to a realization. Oh no. If Jiyu Chungrui was awake and alive, he was a doctor, so how could he not be able to treat his wounds? Or, he could have also asked someone to send him back. This meant. Thinking of this, Sun Hongliang broke out in a cold sweat. He gave Jiyu Wen a few instructions and ran to the clinic. However, he was still a step too late. They had already set off. He had no choice but to run and try to catch up to them. Sun Hongliang didn't see that a man wearing a bamboo hat among the pedestrians had quietly followed after him when he saw him running. Because Fang Ding didn't drive the cart too fast on the streets, Sun Hongliang managed to catch up to the carriage, and they were already out of town. Before he could say anything, a small stone suddenly flew from behind and hit the horse's butt. The horse was startled and immediately galloped away. Fang Qing jumped in shock and quickly steadied the carriage. Sun Hongliang turned his head and looked in the direction of the stone. He noticed a man who resembled the villager who had reported about Jiyu Chengrui's situation. The person turned around and returned to town. Sun Hongliang saw that it was impossible to catch up to the carriage, so he turned back and looked for the man. But the man was already gone. Remembering that Ju Ying had someone protecting her, he didn't do anything unnecessary. Instead, he returned to the restaurant. Chapter 197 Preparation. On the other end, Ju Ying didn't think much and bumped into Dr. Luo roughly when the horse galloped away. They were having a rough time in the carriage. When they finally stabilized, Ju Ying lifted the curtain and was about to scold Fang Qing, but she saw him trying to stabilize the carriage in a hurry. She was stunned and asked, "Fang Qing, what's going on?" "Mistress, I don't know which wicked fella threw a stone at the horses but it scared the horse," Fang Qing shouted while he was busy. Ju Ying was shocked. Although she didn't know what was wrong, she knew something wasn't right. This was because even if someone accidentally threw a stone at the horse would not be this frightened. The only explanation was that the person had deliberately hurled the rock hard. At the thought of this, she immediately thought of Jiyu Chungrui being hunted down a few days ago. Could it be that someone tricked her into coming out? "Fang Qing, when the horse stops, turn around and head back," she commanded. "Miss Ju, what's the meaning of this? Why aren't you going to save Chungrui?" Dr. Luo turned his head and asked in astonishment. Ju Ying hesitated for a while but still told him her guess. "Grandpa Luo, this trip is too dangerous. I will bring Chungrui back myself." Dr. Luo's heart ached when he heard this. "There's no need. Since we're here, there's no reason to go back. Let's go together." "But, no buts. It's not safe for me to get off now anyway." Ju Ying saw the determination in his eyes, so she no longer refused. She took out a small box from under the seat, and inside it was the self-defense stuff she had prepared before in case of an accident. She didn't anticipate actually using it one day. She then took out 2 paper bags, one big and one small, and handed them to Dr. Luo. "The big one is a tear-inducing powder, and the small one is a knockout powder. I have more of them, and it's more important to protect ourselves." After saying that, she also passed 2 bags to Fang Qing and handed him a dagger. "If there's anything, just yell. You don't have to save the chili powder, we have more." "Understood, mistress. Don't worry," Fang Qing assured her after taking it. To be honest, after listening to her analysis, he was more excited than afraid. First, he could test his strength, and second, he could protect his mistress in return for her care. Most importantly, he may even become a dependable aid to her. As for Ju Ying herself, she took out a small, exquisite crossbow and a boning knife, which were placed at the bottom of the box. At the same time, she smeared some knockout powder on them. She put 2 packets of chili powder in her pocket. The rest were placed on the side of the cart door, and anyone who needed them could take them. When they were ready, they arrived at a small forest. No, it wasn't a forest, but a forest-like green belt by the river. Fang Qing was on immediate alert. 2 whistling sounds rang out just as they were about to leave the forest. The horse immediately fell to the ground, and Fang Qing, who had been on guard, barely dodged it. 2 men in black quickly slid down the rope from a tree not far away. One rushed toward Fang Qing, while the other ran toward the car. "Mistress, be careful," Fang Qing exclaimed in shock. After shouting, the 2 men came up to them. The person charging at Fang Qing kicked him in the chest when he was in front of him. Fang Qing immediately crossed his arms to block it, and at the same time, he kicked back at the man's waist. Chapter 198. Subduing them. The man was shocked. He somersaulted in the air and dropped the rope to land on the ground. However, the moment he landed, the packet of the tear-inducing powder in Fang Qing's hand was flung and smashed into his head. Although he closed his eyes in time, the spicy powder still made him sneeze. At the same time, he cursed, "Despicable. Rich coming from you guys." Fang Qing didn't waste any more words with him after that, because he knew from that short exchange that he wasn't his opponent's match. He had to strike first. So, taking advantage of his attacker's inconvenience, he took out a dagger and stabbed him. The man's ears twitched, and he immediately blocked it with his knife. However, the chili powder made him unable to open his eyes. Seeing this, Fang Qing was secretly happy. It seemed that the boss tear-inducing powder was effective. Thinking of this, he lightened his steps and began to fight with him. It didn't take long for 3 cuts to appear on the man's body, one of which was on his knife-holding hand. The attacker was quickly subdued and knocked out. On the other side, another man kicked the cart's roof off, then slid over. Dr. Luo was shocked and immediately turned sideways to avoid the attacker's foot. When he came down from his rope, Dr. Luo nimbly threw out a handful of chili powder. Unfortunately, Dr. Luo only threw it onto the other party's stomach. It had no effect, and he choked on it instead. Zhu Ying was prepared. She blocked his kick with a cushion and dodged. At the same time, she took out her crossbow and shot it at the man's chest. The man in black was shocked by the sudden turn and quickly spun around the rope. However, the arrow still hit his arm. He had no choice but to fall from the rope and rush directly at Zhu Ying. Zhu Ying feared Dr. Luo getting hurt, so she dodged with a front somersault and landed on the ground. She turned around and aimed the crossbow at the man in black. The man in black seemed to have sensed her intentions and quickly raised his knife to attack Dr. Luo. Zhu Ying didn't hesitate and shot at the man's hand that was holding the knife. Seeing this, the man had to dodge. He jumped off the carriage, somersaulted forward, and assailed Zhu Ying. Zhu Ying saw this and smiled sweetly. She threw the tear powder between them and shot it with a crossbow. At the same time, she turned around and ran. As expected, there was a scream from behind, followed by a series of sneezes, but soon there was silence. Zhu Ying turned her head and looked at the motionless man on the ground. She used her crossbow to prod him twice, cautiously. After making sure that there was no movement, she said, "As expected, the faster you move, the faster the medicine will take effect." However, just in case, she still pulled down the curtain, tore it into 4, and tied his hands and feet up like a pig. At this moment, Fang Qing came over with another prisoner and asked, "Mistress, what should we do with the 2 of them?" "What do we do?" Zhu Ying paused for a moment and turned her head to look at Dr. Luo, who had finally recovered. "Grandpa Luo, please give them some medicine to sleep for a day." "You brat, you didn't even remind me. You're killing me here." After Dr. Luo finished speaking, he sneezed again and walked over with a bag of knockout powder. Looking at the eyes and nose of the men in black, swollen red by the spiciness, Dr. Luo smiled sinisterly and said, "Ha, Zhu Ying, can you give me 2 bags of tear gas powder for self-protection? This thing is quite useful." "No problem. I can even give you a sack." Zhu Ying nodded. This is more like it. Dr. Luo stepped forward, pinched the black man's chin, and poured a small pinch of knockout powder into his mouth. He gave some to the other and said, "All right, I'll leave the rest to you guys." Chapter 199. Someone saved them. Ju Ying looked at the two people on the ground with a troubled expression. With others around, she couldn't kill them and put them into her interspace to be used as fertilizer. However, she was unwilling to let them go. At this moment, a small bee flew past her, and her eyes lit up. She told Fang Qing, "Comb the two of them and see if there's any identification. Of course, if there's money on them, help yourself." "I understand. Don't worry, mistress." Fang Qing's eyes brightened, and he immediately went to work. Ju Ying turned around and found the small box that contained the chili powder. She wrapped a small bag of white sugar from her interspace in the small box as a cover. "Mistress, there's about 4 taels of broken silver and silver notes worth around 90 taels. Fang Qing summarized and handed the silver to her. 90 taels? Ju Ying took it and pondered. The people who chased after Jiyu Chungrui last time also seemed to have 90 taels of silver on them. In addition to the broken silver pieces, it was a total of 50 taels of silver per person. They should be the same group of people and sent by the same person. Otherwise, how could the amount of silver they had on them be so similar? "Do they have any marks on their bodies?" he asked. "No, both of them were clean. There wasn't even a mark on their knives. It seems that the other party is cautious." Ju Ying concluded and took out 30 silver. She handed them to Fang Qing and said, "You've worked hard. Take this." "No need, mistress." Take it. You're not young anymore. Keep it for your future wife." After Ju Ying finished speaking, she stuffed the banknote into his hand. The two used their attacker's rope to tie the two men to a tree. Finally, Ju Ying asked Fang Qing to go to the river, wet the sugar with it, and smear it on the faces and hands of the two men in black. After that, she turned her head and saw Dr. Luo squatting in front of the horse, examining it. Ju Ying walked over and asked, "Grandpa Luo, how's the horse? Can it be saved?" Dr. Luo shook his head and said with a grave expression, "Their archery skills are good. One arrow pierced the horse's windpipe, so you'd be more careful in the future. Thank you for your advice, Grandpa Luo. This was found on their bodies, take it as my apology." Ju Ying said this while pulling out 3 10-tael silver notes and handing them to him. Dr. Luo raised his head and refused. "There's no need. If you really want to help me, prepare a table of wine and food for tonight. I need to have a good drink." "All right, then, it's a deal. We shouldn't stay here for long, let's hurry up and leave." Ju Ying reminded them and picked up her small box. She put away all their weapons, picked up the two attackers' knives, and walked toward Huan village. However, they did not walk far before they saw Jiyu Chungrui sitting in the ox cart and the coachman talking and laughing. The three finally heaved a sigh of relief. When Jiyu Chungrui saw the three of them, especially the bloodstains on Fang Qing's body, he was worried. "What happened to you?" he asked. Ju Ying did not hide anything and told him what had happened today. "It seems like they won't stop until they die." Jiyu Chungrui gritted his teeth and cursed. "Get in the cart. Well, make a big deal out of this and send them to the county government," Jiyu Chungrui decided. After he finished speaking, he stepped onto the ox cart first. Ju Ying and the other two immediately followed, but when they returned to the small forest, there was no one. Even the broken carriage and the horse's body were gone. Did someone save them? Fang Qing paused for a moment, then immediately searched around. He knew that they would only wake up after 24 hours if no one came to save them. Chapter 200. Verification. As expected, the rope above had been cut off at waist height. He ran back in a panic and asked, "Mistress, I think they were rescued. Don't tell me they have helpers." Dr. Luo cried out in alarm. Jiyu Chungrui and Ju Ying looked at each other and had a rough idea of what was happening. If the other party's people had saved them, there was no need to clean up the scene so thoroughly. In that case, it could only be someone on their side. Thinking of the news that Sun Hongliang had revealed, the couple smiled. This saved them a lot of trouble. After that, they took the ox cart and returned to town safely. When they parted, Ju Ying gave Jiyu Chungrui the money she had found today to buy another carriage and then returned to the restaurant. When Sun Hongliang saw Ju Ying and Fang Qing return, he heaved a huge sigh of relief. "Mistress, you're back. Is Dr. Jiyu all right?" "He's fine and doing well." After Ju Ying said this, she diverted Fang Qing to the back kitchen. She walked to Sun Hongliang and asked, "Do you still remember what the person who sent you the message looked like? I'm ashamed to say this, but my negligence caused you to suffer." Sun Hongliang apologized and told her what happened after they left. At the same time, he also revealed to her that when they went out, there would be people protecting them in the dark. With her thoughts confirmed, Ju Ying heaved a sigh of relief and replied, "I don't blame you for this. You were just as concerned and confused, too. I mean, I didn't react in time either. But we have to be more careful in the future. Fortunately, we prepared some self-defense items in the carriage beforehand, otherwise, we really wouldn't have been able to come back today. Yes, I will find the messenger as soon as possible. It's best if you don't go out for the time being. I will remind Chungrui." Ju Ying nodded and told him a total of 180 silvers, about 50 silver taels from each assassin, and then turned back to the kitchen. However, even if she did not punish Sun Hongliang, it did not mean that he would not be punished. She had just returned home that night when Manager Liu summoned Sun Hongliang over. Sun Hongliang looked at Manager Liu's serious expression and immediately understood what was happening. He knelt on one knee and apologized, "Captain Liu, please punish me for my negligence." "You still have the nerve to ask for punishment." If they hadn't prepared in advance today, Ju Ying and the other two would have died in that forest. How would we explain this to General Ju? Manager Liu scolded angrily. "What have you learned all these years?" He pointed at Sun Hongliang's nose and scolded. "You can't even tell if the person is problematic or not. It's a small oversight. Please punish me, Captain." Sun Hongliang lowered his head in defeat. "Go back and write down your punishment 100 times. If it weren't for the fact that they can't do without you, I would have sent you back to the base and trained you for a month." Manager Liu waved his hand. "Yes." Sun Hongliang thought of the messenger and told him the truth. "I feel that this person is not simple and must be investigated as soon as possible. In addition, Ju Ying told me a piece of news today. She said that whether it was the people who hunted her today or those who hunted Jiyu Chungrui a few days ago, each had about 50 taels of silver on them." 50 taels of silver. Shopkeeper Liu immediately understood what was going on. This was most likely the reward for their mission, which meant that these people were from other places. It seemed that Qiao Lansheng's backer had emerged, as General Ju had said. "Is there a mark on the banknote?" he asked. Chapter 201 Fallout. "No, it's just normal silver notes from the Baotong Bank," Sun Hongliang said. "I see. It seems like our real opponent is here." When Manager Liu said this, he thought of the two people his subordinates had brought back and their interrogation. However, the results were disappointing. They could only tell from their accent that they were from the capital and nothing else. He had no choice but to use the two of them as bait. Wang Quan had suffered setback after setback, and knowing that he couldn't hide anymore, he reported to Qiao Lansheng. Qiao Lansheng was so angry that he choked Wang Quan's neck and said through gritted teeth, "You fool, those 10 people are death warriors. Do you know what that means? If they were alive, they would have crawled back no matter what. Since there's no news, it means they are dead. You're stupid enough to send 2 more even knowing that. Why don't you die from your stupidity?" Ah. Wang Quan's eyes rolled back, and his hands clutched Qiao Lansheng's hands tightly, struggling desperately to get him to let go. However, the enraged Qiao Lansheng didn't stop. He knew very well that if this got out, he would be punished too. Just as Wang Quan was about to be strangled to death, he started struggling physically, kicking and hitting him. Although he couldn't use much strength, Qiao Lansheng regained his senses and threw him aside. He knew it was not the right time for him to show his face, and he did not have any more trustworthy subordinates. There were many things that Wang Quan needed to take care of. After being thrown to the ground, Wang Quan began to take big breaths before slowly recovering. However, after recovering, he realized that his throat was so painful that he struggled to swallow. He crawled and stood up, walking to Qiao Lansheng and pointing to his throat. Qiao Lansheng looked at the bruised handprint on Wang Quan's neck and narrowed his eyes. Go to my private account and take some money to find a doctor. In addition, stop all operations for the time being and wait for my next order. Wang Quan nodded and bowed, turned around, and walked out. Qiao Lansheng looked at his back with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. It was no wonder that he was able to ruin the business of Dongshin restaurant in the past with his meager abilities. Qiao Lansheng had to cultivate a few more trustworthy people as soon as possible, or he would get into trouble sooner or later. Although Wang Quan didn't know that Qiao Lansheng intended to kill him, he knew that after this incident, his young master would no longer put him in an important position, and he was prepared to prepare a way out. After this incident, Ju Ying and her husband were more well prepared every time they went out, especially Jiyu Chungrui. They tried to reduce the chances of going out as much as possible. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. The days were peaceful, but the two did not relax. Instead, they became more and more vigilant. At night, they tied Zhuang up and set up some traps in the courtyard. However, the couple was getting busier because everyone began to plant chili seedlings. At the same time, Ju Ying also took out rapeseed and lettuce for everyone to produce. Of course, she also requested that what they grew to be sold to Grassland Taste Restaurant. After the Qingming festival, the work in the field was almost done. That night, just as Jiyu Chungrui and his wife were about to start dinner, second uncle Jiyu and Jiyu Chengxi came looking for them. Seeing that there were only stir-fried green bean sprouts and chive scrambled eggs on the table, second uncle Jiyu was stunned and exclaimed, "Your restaurant's business is so good, and you are only having this for dinner? It's not that bad. Have you guys eaten? If not, let's eat together." Jiyu Chungrui greeted them. "You two hurry up and eat as we've already eaten." Second uncle Jiyu shook his head and said. Chapter 202. A way out. Alright, then you guys can sit and wait. Jiyu Chungrui wasn't overly polite. He went to the west room to get a plate of stir-fried pumpkin seeds and handed it to them. "Have some snacks as you wait." After that, he turned around and had dinner. After Ju Ying finished eating, she poured a glass of water for the father and son. Once Jiyu Chungrui finished too, he asked, "Second uncle, why did you bring Chengxi here today?" "Right, Chengxi said that he wants to study medicine. I thought that this was also a way out for him. We can't let him just be a store assistant, so I came to see if you could take him as a disciple." Second uncle Jiyu put down the pumpkin seeds and asked with a serious expression. Of course, this also left a way out for himself. He realized that his eldest son had secretly bought 2 acres of land to grow vegetables, and they had never told him. In fact, if he had not discovered it, they might have kept it a secret forever. If his eldest son were unfilial, he would have to turn to his youngest son and need someone to take care of him in his old age. This was why he couldn't stand by and watch Chengxi stay home and work on something unimportant to his future. Jiyu Chungrui looked at Jiyu Chengxi and asked, "Chengxi, do you really want to learn medicine?" "I want to learn. Not only can I earn money by practicing medicine, but I can also save lives and earn respect." Jiyu Chengxi nodded. "You're quite realistic and understand your goal." Jiyu Chungrui nodded in agreement, then said, "How about this? You go to the clinic and be an apprentice for 3 months. I'll also observe if you have talent in this area. If you do, then continue to study. If you don't, you will have to change your profession." He paused briefly and asked, "What do you guys think?" "This arrangement is best. I will leave him to you." Second uncle Jiyu expressed his delight. "I'll listen to you, third brother." Jiyu Chengxi nodded repeatedly. "Alright, come over early tomorrow morning, and we'll go together." Jiyu Chungrui added. After that, they chatted for a bit, and Ju Ying and her husband knew the Jiyu family had finished their farm work prep. Father Jiyu and second uncle Jiyu were planning to rent a boat to start a river transportation business. Their snack shop in the town had stabilized and was handed over to Mrs. Liu and Mrs. Yarrow to manage. Jiyu Chungrui hesitated for a moment before reminding them, "You better be careful. Elder Qiao's son, Qiao Lansheng, is still alive. He might make a move on you." "What? Didn't the Qiao family get exiled?" Second Uncle Jiyu exclaimed in shock. "He's back, and we were both attacked. Fortunately, we brought something for self-defense, so we survived. You guys should be careful. Are you hurt?" Second Uncle Jiyu asked as he sized them up. "No, we were afraid of being robbed, so we always had something for self-defense. That's how we managed to survive their assassination attempt," Jiyu Chungrui explained. "But, didn't Zhu Huaiming do everything to stamp out the Qiao family? How could they make such a big mistake? I think you know the current situation in the court better than I do." Second Uncle Jiyu did not speak after hearing this. The emperor had a total of 6 children, and 4 of them had already grown up. In addition to the emperor's distrustful personality, although the court seemed harmonious on the surface, undercurrents surged while his children fought for power. It was especially fierce between the eldest prince and the 4th prince. One was the legitimate heir, while the other was the son of the emperor's most favored consort. The 2 sides were almost at each other's throats at this point. The Jiyu family was a sacrifice in this political struggle. They had to be very, very careful when it came to their new river transportation business. Otherwise, they would be reduced to the streets if something happened again. Chapter 203 Water Wheel. After that, Second Uncle Jiyu wasn't in the mood to chat anymore. So, after exchanging a few polite greetings, he brought Jiyu Chengxi home. But just as he left, he returned and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. There's still something I want to discuss with you." "Do say," Jiyu Chungrui replied. "Right, I heard that you drew the water wheel. You see, we were wondering if we could help you sell it. At that time, our 2 families and the Qian family will share the profits. What do you think?" "The water wheel is done," Zhu Ying asked happily. The wheat in the manor was waiting to be watered, and she was getting impatient. "It's done. We tried to install it today, and the water test will probably take place the day after tomorrow. The chief will definitely inform you by then." "That's great. It'll be much easier with the water wheel." "Indeed. Otherwise, it would be too time-consuming and laborious to fetch water from the river bit by bit. Thanks for creating that quickly." Jiyu Chungrui smiled as he spoke. He then looked at Zhu Ying and asked, "Do we still have to get involved in the water wheel?" Zhu Ying shook her head. "No, we don't know any carpentry and don't have time to run a business. We won't get involved, just give us a water wheel will do." She didn't want to have any business dealings with the old family. Otherwise, there would be pointless arguments in the future. Jiyu Chungrui nodded in agreement. "This is also what I want. So, Second Uncle, if you want to start a water wheel business, I suggest you look for the patriarch, the village chief, and the Tian family to discuss. In addition, this water wheel is something that benefits the country and the people. I believe it will not be long before word gets out, and the officials may intervene." Second Uncle Jiyu nodded and asked, "This water wheel can be sold at a high price in areas with little rain. Are you really going to give it up?" "Yes, as long as we can get what we need." Jiyu Chungrui nodded. "I'll release this news, then." "No problem. Remember to get us a water wheel." "I know." Second Uncle Jiyu responded and went out with Jiyu Chengxi. The next night, the patriarch and the village chief weren't sure of what they heard, so they came to confirm it again. After knowing that the couple really only wanted a water wheel, they turned and left. After a whole day of hard work, they finally managed to draw water from the river on the 3rd day. The villagers were delighted and didn't have to worry about watering the land this year. The next step was to dig a canal, and the land in the village would be irrigated. 5 days later, the second water wheel was created. Zhu Ying asked them to send it to the manor, making Chang Shun and the others jump in joy. In less than half a month, orders for the water wheel mobilized the labor force of the entire village. One day, Zhu Ying had just entered her restaurant when she saw manager Liu waiting inside. She was stunned for a moment before walking over and asking, "Uncle Liu, what brings you here today?" General Ju is waiting for you in the bamboo garden on the second floor. Manager Liu stated as he rose to his feet. Since General Ju is here, let's go up together. Ju Ying offered and went upstairs with him. After pushing the door open, she saw Ju Huaiming eating and drinking tea with a look of enjoyment on his face. She went forward and said, "Hello, Brother Ju. Have a seat." "Has Brother Ji Yu already left for the clinic?" "Yes, he went there early in the morning. The temperature difference between day and night is quite drastic now, and many people have caught colds. The clinic sure is busy. You guys sit down while I call him over." Ju Ying said and was about to go out. "Forget it. There's nothing that important for him to come over at this time. Don't call for him." Ju Huaiming quickly stopped her. Chapter 204 Looking for the blueprint. What's the matter? Ju Ying asked as she sat opposite him. Manager Liu, on the other hand, walked to Ju Huaiming and poured a cup of tea for each of them before sitting down. "There are two main things. First, I just missed your cooking and want to come over to satisfy my craving, but I don't want to have hot pot this time. The other thing is about the water wheel. The north of the Ming dynasty is short of water, so I hope you can sell the drawings to me. You can name a price." Ju Huaiming stated. Ju Ying shook her head with a smile and said, "I'm not selling the blueprint, as this is a good thing for the country and the people. If you can use it well, feel free to take it. But there is one thing. You have to leave some water wheels for us. The whole village is working overtime, and I don't want them to work for nothing." Ju Huaiming gave her a thumbs up and said, "Such selflessness, then this matter is settled. I'll see if I can get you some rewards later. As for the water wheel in your village, they are selling it too expensively. I'll discuss it with them, and I won't ask them to sell at a loss." "All right, do as you see fit." Ju Ying didn't say anything more after hearing that. After asking them to rest, she went to the kitchen to work. First, she made the base sauce and dipping sauce for the hot pot and began to prepare some dishes. As there were just a few people, she prepared 6 dishes and a soup. They were 4-flavor meatballs, braised pork with pickled vegetables, stew beef, cumin mutton, stir-fried shiitake mushrooms with vegetables, bean sprouts in vinegar sauce, and fishball soup. While preparing the dishes, Manager Liu reported to General Ju what had happened recently. Ju Huaiming nodded. "I didn't expect them to know how to protect themselves." "I'm relieved." Manager Liu added, "The key is that they have a variety of things in their hands." Putting the knockout powder out of the equation, who would have thought they would make chili and mustard powder into weapons? Surprisingly, the effect was quite good too. One of them almost went blind from that. If our people didn't go in time, those 2 attackers would have either frozen to death or been stung to death by bees at night. No matter how we interrogated or tortured them, they didn't speak. But what's funny is that the sugar on their wounds attracted ants, and the attackers spilled everything they knew. Manager Liu burst out laughing. "Doesn't this also provide us with a means of interrogation?" With a smile, Ju Huaiming stated, "Since you're almost done with the investigation, let's wrap things up. Otherwise, it'll threaten the couple if we continue this. They're already on guard, so the next time the attackers strike, it'll be much more brutal than the previous 2 times. All right, I'll make arrangements." "It's fine. We'll go after dinner. Otherwise, it's boring for me to have lunch alone." "All right, it seems that I'm in for a treat today." After the food was served, the 2 ate to their heart's content and then went off to do their tasks. They agreed to go together in the evening to get the blueprints. On the other hand, Qiao Lansheng had also found the source of the blueprint. He had initially planned to get someone to steal it but changed his mind when he received the news that Ju Huaiming had gone to Grassland Taste Restaurant. At night, he immediately reported the matter to his superior. "Young master, I heard Ju Huaiming didn't bring many people with him this time. Why don't we? We can know their limit then. You've forgotten about the 4 people we lost. Although assassinations would vent our anger, it's the stupidest method. Don't forget that many of their people are already stationed here. What you need to do now is find everyone and capture them all in one fell swoop. Do you understand? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.